I've got.
I'm Dave Rahe. I'm a consulting soil scientist located in Hillsboro, Illinois, and my current work consists mostly of assisting farmers with soil fertility and soil management issues. We sometimes discuss things like cover crops and no-till, but mostly I'm helping them with their soil fertility issues, and we do our work by mapping zones and then trying to manage the soil according to the zone, which the zones are defined by the 5 factors of soil formation. I'm not going to go into that right now. If you Google that, you can learn a lot about it. So I guess I've been doing this for 14 years. And it's the longest time I've ever been in any one location. 4 years ago, I started a business called RPM Soil, and we're doing quite well for a startup. Both conventional field type recommendations, and we also do variable rate recommendations. And I guess a curiosity might be, so how did you end up doing that? And my career path has been a long and interesting one. I started my career as a soil scientist for Soil Conservation Service, now called NRCS, and I worked on the once over soil survey mapping of Illinois for 7 years. And then I became a soil conservationist, worked in 3 different counties as a soil conservationist, and at the end of that, I worked at the Corps of Engineers, St. Louis District, and the interesting thing about working for the Corps of Engineers was this was at a time when wetland delineations were very controversial. One of the reasons they were controversial was because they didn't have a soil scientist at the Corps of Engineers, and soils is one of the parameter criteria. So when I went over to the Corps of Engineers, I trained people on how to use soil information and how to identify hydric soils. And then in the end, they decided to hire a soil scientist full-time, which really makes you feel like you accomplished something when you get a government agency to change their way of working. From there, I became a watershed planner, and also worked providing ecological services to urban people in St. Louis, which was kind of interesting at times. And then I went back to working with farmers for 3 years before I was given the opportunity to retire. And when I retired, I started the consulting, and I also worked for FEMA as a floodplain management specialist, which that grew out of my experience with watershed planning. Another sort of a side job that we do is we do soil evaluations for people that want to install septic tanks. For that job, we do 3 soil borings, write full-blown descriptions of those soils, and then we assign a loading rate, which is how fast the water will enter the soil, and also assign a depth of water table, which is based on gray colors, and those factors are taken into account when people design septic tanks. As you can see, I've had a very interesting and diverse career. And I guess as a student, I would encourage you to don't be afraid to step away from something that you thought you were going to do for your life and adventure into something new and interesting. The end.